which episode is regarded as terrible but you love?
This is an easy one for me because I've always said I love this story and I don't care that it's rubbish. A bit like you with Space Babies, you stick to your guns. If you like it, you like it. Mine is Time and the Rani.
Folks, welcome to the season 1 finale of Who to Be Buried With, the podcast where we bring on your favourite guests from the Doctor Who community. They die, and then they tell us about their lives through the medium of Doctor Who and the episodes that mean the most to them. It's obviously based on Brett Goldstein's podcast, Film to Be Buried With, where he does the same thing, but with films. Today's guest is amazing, fantastic. I've been watching him for so long, and as you watch in this podcast, you'll understand that he has some secret origin to the beginnings of this podcast 5 years ago. Without him, our podcast may never have started. That's the Geeks Handbag, everybody. He's a great guest, tells us all sorts of things. We find out so much about him, a lot about Space Babies, all sorts of stuff. But yeah, it's an awesome episode, and I can't wait for you guys to see it right now, or in 15 seconds when I finish talking. As I said, season finale. So if you wanted to do a season 2, show us your love, comment below who you want to see in season 2, because we've enjoyed getting to know so many members of the Who community. It's been a fantastic highlight of the 5-year journey of this pod so far. So yeah, let us know. Show us love, and we'll show you love by doing more. Big thanks to Geeks and every other guest that's come on the pod. Enough talking. It's time for Geeks to die. Sorry, that was grim.
50% podcast.
Connor, today's guest,
Yes.
an absolute classic.
Legend in the Who community.
They are a geek. They are a handbag. They are
Who could it be?
A podcaster,
Oh,
a big blue boxer,
correct.
and a YouTuber.
Also correct.
It's the Geeks Handbag. Welcome to the show.
Thanks,
How are you
guys.
doing, mate? Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Oh, it's a blimmin' pleasure to be here, guys. And you've just made me realise I've forgotten I meant to bring the handbag with me. I was going to have it here. And it's upstairs. Oh, if the camera dies and we get a break, I'll go and grab it. We can edit it in. You can,
Yeah, we'll
you can
Photoshop it in.
superimpose it. I'm holding it now. Yeah. How you guys doing? It's great to be here.
Yeah, we're doing great. Thank you so
We are
much for
great.
joining us. This is a long overdue show that we're all doing together, I think.
Yeah, definitely.
It's been cooking for a while, and here we finally are.
Here we
Absolutely,
are.
mate. We like to start these things by doing two things. One, for anyone that hasn't heard of you before, Geeks, just give a little spiel on what you do.
What do you do? Yeah.
And also, let us know how you're feeling about Doctor Who in general at the moment.
That's our favorite question. The second one.
All right, what do I do? Good question. What do I do? Well, I have a YouTube channel which has been going for quite some time now, which is called the Geeks Handbag, and the premise is pretty simple. I just have this handbag which I've forgotten to bring, but it's covered in badges, so it looks like Ace's jacket. And the premise is that it's bigger on the inside than the outside. So I pull something out of it every video to like talk about and review, and it's normally like something that's just come out, a new product. And I also sort of ventured into doing going to locations and doing location videos, because that's one of my passions is visiting Doctor Who locations, going and see where they filmed it. So there's a couple of them on there. I tried branching out into doing a couple of Star Wars videos, but they got about 20 views, so I quickly went back to Doctor Who.
Yeah.
So it's mostly Doctor Who stuff on my channel. And yeah, I also do a Doctor Who podcast with my good friend Gary, which we've been doing for I think it's about 10 years now. It's been going a very long time.
Been a while, yeah.
Incredible.
Yeah, that's been a while. Incredible. Yeah. Yeah, that is obviously Doctor Who. We've pretty much reached, not the end, but we've pretty much reviewed every single Doctor Who episode now. We are absolutely
You've completed
scraping the
Doctor Who.
Barrel. We've done it.
That's crazy.
Yeah. We recorded just 2 days ago, and we were like, what are we going to do? Like, how are we going to go forward? Because we've done everything. Like, we've got one story that we haven't reviewed, which is a Christmas special, which obviously we don't want to do now because that's all over.
Right.
So we'll have to leave it to next year. So I don't know. We're like, we got a couple of animations we haven't done. I'd quite like to do the Cushing movies. I don't know if you guys are a fan of those.
Good fun.
We've done a review on them.
Yeah.
So,
good fun ones.
so yes.
No, that's awesome. I remember, I think the first video of yours that I saw was like, Did you unbox the season 1 to 7 Blu-ray set when they remastered them and put them in a set? I remember that's what made me get them, which is what I bought that made us do this podcast in the first place. Because I said to Connor,
you have the Geeks Handbag to thank for this entire show.
I said, I want to buy this and I want to rewatch them and I want to document them as I go through them, which is then why we started the podcast.
Oh, okay. Even I'm forgetting our own lore.
Yeah.
That's crazy. That's crazy.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, that is going back a while, that video. And I think it's the video that's probably got the most views. That was kind of like when I turned a bit of a corner with that video, that it suddenly got a bit of attention and brought in some new subs. Yeah. So, wow, we've got a few things to thank for that video. That's cool. Yeah, I like that. As for my feelings on the show, well, I don't want to start on a downer, but I'm not in the best of places with the show at the minute. I am still enjoying it. Like, I think I've been like a Doctor Who fan for so long now that I don't think it's like a friend. Even if you sort of had a bit of a fallout, you always want to be their friend. You've been friends for years. Life's too short, so you stick with them. So, yeah, I don't know. I just haven't quite got that buzz around Doctor Who at the minute that I wish I had. I think the final of season 1 with Sutek and that just really kind of, I wouldn't say finished me off, but it made me want to just sort of put it at arm's length for a little bit. I need to let the dust settle on that. So I'm loving Shooty. I think Shooty's great. I think he's got enormous potential, and a bit like with Matt Smith, who's like my favourite new series Doctor, I think Shooty is just about enough to keep me going in terms of even if there's bad stories, he's normally good in it. So, yeah. But I'm struggling a bit with the new series, I've got to be honest. But I'm excited for Series 2. We've got new companion, hopefully new dynamic, as much as I loved Ruby. So we'll see. The trailer didn't do a lot for me, I'm going to be honest. It didn't kind of ignite the fire. But yeah. I don't know. I thought Series 1 was just a little bit disappointing, if I'm honest. I was so hyped for it, like our new Doctor, this is it, it's first season, let's go, and it was just a bit average. Nothing really stood out. So
you did love Space Babies.
That's when I stopped listening to your podcast. Is when you. No, I'm joking. No, as you well know, I thought Space Babies was terrible. It may even be on my list today. It could be on there. You don't know. But where will it be?
Okay.
Where could it be on that list? We don't know.
The greatest of all time.
That's brilliant.
Yeah, it could be. Could it be the one that I take in to heaven with me? Who knows?
Wow. I feel like unanimously people hate Space Babies. I feel like it's known as, like, even over Christmas, I was saying to my mum, like, I really enjoyed this TV show, and she literally said, this is not a word of a lie, she literally said, but you said that Space Babies Doctor Who episode was good, and you showed us that, and that wasn't. And I was like, my God, even Space Babies has made it into the conversation. I can't even say a TV show is good anymore because people don't believe me because I said I love Space Babies. So.
Why would you show someone Space Babies? Kind of why?
I don't know. I think because we'd seen the 60th and they'd watched Church and Ruby Road, and I was like, well, it's Disney and stuff, and it's going to be huge, and it's the next big thing. And honestly, couldn't hear a pin drop throughout the whole episode. It was just so. It was like, my God, I've just never been so embarrassed in my life. It was just so hard to. Just awful, but I'll tell you, there
is nothing worse than like putting something on that you love, and you're saying, "Oh, you got to watch this," or something you like. Even don't even have to, and saying to someone who's never seen it, like, "Watch this. This is really cool." And then just about 10 minutes in, you can just feel it. It's not happening.
Oh yeah,
it's not. It's a horrible feeling, isn't it? And you're like, "Oh, do I switch it off or do I persevere?" And I've done that with a few things. It happens.
Yeah, I don't know what's worse because I've showed a few people the 60th, for example, and some people have just been sort of silent through it. Well, some people have liked it. Some people have been kind of silent through it, and you're like, "Well, that's not great." And then I had someone who just like laughed at some of the really bad parts of it, and I was like, "I don't know what's worse, like the annoying laughter or just dead silence."
Right?
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, it's how are you sitting on the 60th at the moment? Now it's been like a year. How are you feeling about how all that went?
I think it was just a bit forgettable. I haven't even gone back and revisited it, which I think probably speaks volumes. Again, a little bit like with Series 1, I think there was some good stuff in there, but it just didn't hold together, really. Yeah, I liked the giggle, though. I did like the giggle. I thought that was pretty cool. So, yeah, I haven't really gone back to the 60th, mate, to be honest. It feels like it kind of came and went, didn't really leave a mark, which is a shame because it's the 60th. But yeah,
No, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. This is the time when we have to tell the truth.
well,
Connor.
it comes to us all.
It does.
The truth? What's
And-
the truth, Aiden?
It gets harder every time.
Oh, dear.
Geeks, I don't know if you know this. Obviously, you have been a bit sick lately. We know that.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
maybe it's to do with that. Who knows? But you have died. You're dead.
Yeah, I felt it. I thought I was. I feel dead. But it wasn't the flu that it wasn't the flu that got me. I had
yeah?
a really
How'd you die?
I had a really heroic death. This
Right.
old granny, she'd like wandered in to this train station. I don't know how she did it. She was on the tracks with her little Zimmer, and I was like, "Granny, what are you doing?" And I rushed and pushed her out of the way just as this steaming train come, but it got me instead. So I saved this old 99-year-old
Geeks the
granny who
hero.
sadly dropped dead through shock anyway. But yeah, the train got me.
It's all for
So
nothing.
oh, yeah, it was all for nothing, but it was a heroic death, which is all anyone could ever want. It was either that
like
or
it.
slipping on a banana skin down some steps. It was one of the two.
Why
These
not?
are
Why not
unique. I
both?
like that.
Why didn't you slip on
Why
one on the
not
train
both?
tracks and then the train came in?
Banana skin on the train track. Yes, that's what it was. There it
We
is.
love a good unique answer. That's
That
brilliant.
is insane. Heroic, though. Heroic. Well, do you have any big thoughts on when you die?
Well, it's a probing question, isn't it? It's a big one. I don't know if you guys have seen the Disney film The Black Hole. Have you ever seen that film?
No.
Oh, guys, you have to go and see it.
Sorry.
All right.
Okay.
Watch the Disney film The Black Hole. It's one of the darkest Disney films ever. It goes pretty dark. And basically at the end of that film, there's like a really trippy moment where we don't know what's going on. And it's I think it's supposed to sort of be that they're one side of the crew are going to heaven and the other side are definitely in hell. And that's kind of how I picture it, that I could be going to either this light that they all go in and start twirling around and it's all wonderful and they all see all their memories. It could be that. Or it could be like Dr. Reinhardt, who ends up being on top of a hill surrounded by flames. It's one of the two.
Yeah, right.
That's what I think. I
Are
get
you
a
le-
feeling
are you
I'll
leaning
probably be in
anyway?
the... I feel like I'll probably be surrounded by flames, but you never know. I may veer off. The spaceship may just, veer off towards the light. I hope so.
Yeah.
Black hole. That sounds good.
Well,
I'll give it a
you're in
watch.
luck.
It's a classic.
Give it a spin.
You're in
on.
luck because you've made it to heaven. And it's not just
Yay.
your ordinary heaven, mate. It's Doctor Who heaven.
The best.
Ooh-wee.
Thank you.
Standing at the pearly gates behind us is Connor and Aiden. What are we
St.
called?
Peter's.
St. Peter's.
Two-
St. Peter's. Yes.
Two angels, yeah.
Thank
That's
you.
it. That's us.
That is us.
With beers,
behind
with
us.
beers hidden behind their wings.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
Sorry to pull them out. Behind us is the best Doctor Who heaven ever. It's got pubs with people watching Doctor Who in them. They're all hanging out. All your friends are there. You got Crispy, Josh, the rest of the gang. They're all in there. And if you're lucky enough, you might be able to go join them, have a couple of beers, maybe a Guinness with them. Who
yeah.
knows?
And we haven't said no to anyone yet.
Not
so
yet.
This is. I know. I'm not trying to put pressure on you, geeks, but I'm just saying we haven't said no to anyone yet. But
So think about that Space
today
Babies
might
answer.
be a first. You never know.
Right. Okay. I think I see what you're saying. I think I've got the memo.
I'm just saying. I don't want to be that guy, but
All
So-
right.
you never know.
I feel like you've
We
already
will
made
let
up
you
your
know.
mind, Connor. I feel like I feel like the decision has been made.
Never has St. Peter ever done that ever. Not me.
So yeah, we'll start at the
Let's get cracking
very,
into it.
very beginning. Geeks, what
All
was
right.
the very first episode of Doctor Who that you ever saw?
Well, this is a question I don't have an answer for, I'm afraid, because
Right.
the reason is I was like 4 or 5 years old when I started watching Doctor Who. So I know that it was a Tom Baker, and I have very, very clear memories of being this age and watching Doctor Who. I have like sort of little images in my mind from watching it, so I could picture like the TARDIS shrinking in Legopolis, and I know I was obsessed with K9 at that age because I remember building like a little K9 out of a milk crate, and eventually my mum and dad bought me a toy of K9, and I had a Dalek. So I know it was a Tom Baker, and I know I was 4 or 5 because all of this happened before my parents moved to their like second house. So I know all of this stuff was when we lived in our first house. So that's how I can sort of know it was around about that age. And I know it would have been Tom Baker. And as I said, I do vaguely remember little things. I have a feeling my first episode would have been something like Destiny of the Daleks. It would have been around about there. I got visions of Davros, but as you get older, your mind blurs and you think you remember stuff. But it's going to be somewhere around Tom season 17, season 18 that I started watching Doctor Who. So although I can't remember the exact episode, I do have like clear memories of literally sitting there and watching it, and I feel like Warriors Gate might have been one of them because as a kid, and this image has stuck with me for years, and I've never quite worked out which episode it was from. I know I was obsessed with K9 sort of going into this void, and the more I've thought about it, because I was obsessed with K9 as a kid, I just loved him. And I think that might have been like I'm remembering something from Warriors Gate or something like that. Maybe. When they got the black and white photos with the colour going over it and stuff, and colour pictures and stuff. So, yeah, I don't have a definitive answer for that one, guys. Sorry, but I know it's around about there, and I know I was around about that age. Nice. I remember like trying to build a TARDIS in our old house, and all of that stuff would have been before 1982, because that's when they moved. So anything before then. And I remember also decorating my parents' wardrobe. I found this really thick black tape and put it all around their wardrobe and made it look like the TARDIS. And they were furious. And that was that definitely was in the first house, because I can still picture that really clearly. It's crazy. So yeah. So I don't know what the first ep was, but it was definitely Tom. Who's behind me?
That's good. I like that answer.
It's popped.
I like it's like we've never had an error as an answer before, and I like it.
I like it. I love it.
I like to mix it up.
Yeah.
So, which episode scared you the most?
I think around about the Colin Baker era. So what year was Colin? 86, is he? I'm trying to think how old I would have been, because Doctor Who's never really scared me. This whole thing about being behind the sofa, I've never kind of really bought into that, because it's never had that effect on me particularly. But definitely during the Colin Baker era, I would say I was unsettled as a kid. I'm trying to think how old I would have been, 10 maybe. And so I remember being freaked out by the glass Dalek in Revelation of the Dalek. That really creeped me out. That whole episode, that whole story creeps me out, actually. There's like a really sinister undertone to that whole thing, with like Joe Bell and Davros in his funny little glass case and stuff. But yeah, that one definitely freaked me out as a kid. I think Brain of Morbius as well creeped me out with a big brain. But new series stuff, I guess I'm just I've sort of passed getting scared by it, to be honest. I think if the one that I felt was most effective in terms of scares, I would say is something like The Empty Child, where you've got the gas masks. That was pretty. Yes. Even now, I think that stands up as a good creepy moment. So, for classic, I'll go with Revelation of the Daleks, and for new series, I'm going to go with Empty Child, because I think that's still a really good creepy story. The kid with the gas mask saying, "Where is my mummy?" Is are you my mummy? Great stuff that was.
Terrifying. The worst thing about getting older is not finding Doctor Who scary anymore.
Yeah, definitely.
I miss it. Yeah. Do you have an episode that makes you cry the most?
I don't know about cry the most. I do like it when an episode makes me cry weirdly. I like it when the writing in a story can actually hit a note that makes me feel emotional. I'll tell you one that always gets me, and I absolutely love it to this day, is the scene in I've forgotten the story. Eccleston's last two-parter. What's it called?
Part of Ways.
Yeah, Parting of the Ways. Yeah, Parting of the Ways. The scene where the hologram doctor comes up and tells Rose to get on with her life, leave the TARDIS, no one will notice it, or just become a strange thing. And it's the moment he turns and looks at her and says, "Has a good life." I don't know what it is. It gets me every single time. But I like it. I kind of love watching that because it makes me feel really, I don't know, it makes me feel something. I remember watching that with my partner and trying so hard. I could feel like the tear coming. Like, this is the first time, I was like, when I was trying to get him into Doctor Who, and I was like, oh, watch this episode because it's one of my favourites. And that scene coming up and trying so hard not to cry and him just being like, what's wrong with you? And I'm like, no, it really makes me emotional, this scene. So that one always springs to mind. What are the ones that make me cry? I don't know. I can't think of any off the top of my head. But there are scenes in Doctor Who which do get me emotional, which I always like. Could you think of which ones make you cry? I'm curious.
We tend to like it's the whole argument like who cries. Like how Shooty cries all the time. It every scene feels a little bit less emotional. So I think I know we both really like In the Name of the Doctor when Matt cries halfway through that, and it's so like you never, other than Angels Take Manhattan, you never really see him have like a little quiet cry like that. And I think that's a really big one for me.
Which episode is regarded as terrible but you love?
This was an easy one for me, but it is a classic, and I hope you've seen it because I really want to know your opinion on it. This is an easy one for me because I've always said I love this story, and I don't care that it's rubbish. Every time I watch it, I enjoy it, and so I'm unashamed about it. And it's a bit like you with Space Babies. You stick to your guns. If you like it, you like it. Mine is Time and the Rani, the very first Seventh Doctor story, which comes in for a right good kick-in every time anyone mentions it. I get why. I mean, it is bad. It's very pantomime. You know, there's lots of pratfalls. McCoy is all over the place as the Doctor. But when I was a kid, having struggled a bit with like the Colin Baker era, which to be honest, I did really found a bit too dark. You know, you've got people eating rats and getting stabbed with syringes and God knows what else. It was all a bit bleak, the Colin Baker era, for me as a kid. As much as I liked it, it just was a bit too much, you know. And when Time the Runny bursts onto the screen, it's all camp and fun, and it's just back to being a bit silly. And you've got Kate O'Mara, who I think is absolutely fantastic in it as the Rani. I think there's a lot to love in Time the Rani, and I think a lot of people just know that it's got this reputation or say, oh yeah, it's terrible, without actually sitting there thinking, oh, actually it's quite fun, you know, if you just sort of sit back and just watch it. But I do think I think there is a sort of a Space Babies thing here. You either find it fun and connect with it, or you don't, and I think it's very much the same thing. I watched Time the Rani. I can see why people would think it's awful, but there's something about it that I just really enjoy. I just think it's fun, and it's exactly what I needed at that point back in 1987, is it? Whenever it was, you know, after the Colin Baker era and all the stuff with the hiatus and all the stuff with Trala, I just needed Time in the Rani to be this, you know, sort of silly fun not back to basics, but I don't know, just has a fun to it. I like it.
You like that season, don't you?
It's my least favorite of the 3 seasons, but I think similar to what you're saying about Shooty and Matt, where it's like even sort of the weaker scripts, if you have a Doctor like that, they kind of elevate it and pull you through. And that's how I feel with Time of the Rani. I don't love that one. There's serials in that season that I really like. But Time of the Rani, yeah, I don't love, but I enjoy it because Sylvester's great. And as much as Mel screams for an awful lot of it, it's still great to have her in there.
I think the bubbles are good as well. You know, when they tread on the floor and they're trapped in the bubbles, and like as soon as that bubble hits something, it's going to explode. I think that's that's a really cool thing, and I remember loving that as a kid. I loved the Tet traps. I find it quite sad when Urek's feelings are hurt when he overhears that the Rani's going to abandon him, and you know he's conveying that through this blooming costume, and yet you totally get that he's sort of slumped over, thinking, "Oh, she's betrayed me." And I think there's a lot to love in it, but I do get why it's not regarded as a classic, but it's one that I'll always love, and I've watched it so many times over the years. I can't tell you. It is one that I put on just to feel good.
No, that's
and
awesome.
That thing gets stuck in your head as well. You know that ding. Whenever I've watched it, I find myself walking around the house doing that, like cleaning the pan.
Murray's got nothing on that.
No.
Nothing on that. Nothing on the bee sting theme. No.
Is there an episode that you used to love but doesn't hold up anymore?
Yeah, I had to think about this one because there's a few, but I think the one that really comes to mind is Let's Kill Hitler. Now, I didn't used to love this, but the reason I've picked it is because I went to a preview of it or something. I got tickets to see a preview at the BFI in London. Oh, wow. And so I saw it about 2 weeks before it came out. Nice. And I just remember loving it at the time. I don't know if it's that thing of just being in a cinema and it makes it grander or whatever, but I was just like, oh my God, Melody turns out to be River and all this is so cool and everything. And then I remember like being so excited to watch it with my other half, like when it was shown on the TV 2 weeks later. It's like, oh, I've already seen this. It's really good. It's a really good opening. I love it. And just feeling so different to how I remembered seeing it in the theatre, thinking, actually, this is really not very good. And when I last watched it, I struggled. I really struggled because that scene where Matt is like on the floor for like what feels for forever, just crawling along in his suit. And I was like, this is really not good. Not a good story at all. So probably Let's Kill Hitler is up there as one that has drastically changed, in my opinion. Yeah.
Which episode means the most to you, not because of the episode itself, but because of the memories associated with it?
Probably for the classic series Logopolis, I think is the episode. You know, when you asked me what the first episode I ever saw was, I was going to say Logopolis, and then I realised, no, I must have seen episodes before that because that hasn't got K9 in it, blah, blah, blah. But Logopolis, man, is a story. Again, it's not one that's particularly loved by a lot of fans, although I do think it has its fans. The reason I'm picking it, though, is because that, I think, cemented my absolute obsession, if you like, with the show and the TARDIS. I just was absolutely fascinated by the TARDIS, and that story is, a lot of it centers around that, with it, you know, a TARDIS in a TARDIS and it's shrinking. There was just so much imagery that stuck with me as a kid from that. All the different rooms, the fact it was bigger on the inside. Imagine, like, I'm 4 or 5 years old watching that, and I just wanted to be in the TARDIS. I just wanted to see it at the end of my road and go in it. You know, something about that story absolutely connected with me as a kid, and it has never gone away. And I think a lot of my love for the show is because of that story, because of the TARDIS and the fascination with it. You know, not necessarily, well, yeah, the Doctor as well to an extent, but it was just this idea of this crazy blue box. Something about it I just absolutely loved. So that is a classic series. With the new series, I sort of associate memories more with like the reactions to them, and I was thinking of like Utopia, when the Master locks the Doctor out of the TARDIS and regenerates into John Sim, and that was such an amazing moment. And the reason I'm picking it as something that relates to me is because so many people that what I would call sort of casual Doctor Who fans who are friends of mine were like phoning me and saying, oh my God, did you just see that? You know, what an episode. And I'm like, yes, it was amazing. What a cliffhanger. And there was such a buzz that I remember sort of, I don't know if my mind's exaggerated, but it felt like it lasted for that whole week. Like people were just talking about it, even people that, as I said, were not necessarily in my big Doctor Who group. It was just felt like it reached outside of it and stuff. So that I loved, just that feeling of, oh my God, everyone's talking about Doctor Who. And just a similar vibe to that would be the cliffhanger to Stolen Earth, where Tennant got shot. That still gives me chills. That moment where he's running toward Rhodes and he turns in slow-mo and the Dalek shoots him and he starts to regenerate. And am I remembering this right? Like all of the other things kick in. Like that's the one with Torchwood and everything else. You get all these things building up, don't you? Wow. Like again, just so that buzz that I got from it, and everyone again just going crackers. I think when I talk about not being so excited about the show anymore is because I miss moments like that when everyone would be like, "Oh my God, like what's going to happen?" I really miss that buzz of like people just going crazy over stuff instead of moaning about it, if you know what I mean. Instead of saying Sutek, instead of saying like Sutek was dragged along for a vortex on a lead, you know. And I include myself in this. I don't want to be moaning about Doctor Who, but I want to feel that buzz again. I want to feel, like you said, connected to other people through Doctor Who because of scenes and cliffhangers like that. Yeah. Amazing moments, you know.
Yeah, I think, and
exact same,
and granted, Stolen Earth is 4 seasons into it to a run, but if you like compare that with the Sutek cliffhanger, it's like you get Sutek and you're like, great, now what's got like what are you gonna do? And then that's
silly.
sort of like the cliffhanger, really, isn't it? Whereas like Stolen Earth, you have 10 things happening, all the companions all reach like a cliffhanger at the same time, and it's incredible.
It is incredible, isn't it?
For the first time, it literally was like the most insane thing I think I'd ever seen in my life. It was just just like I was watching it on YouTube because someone had uploaded it because I was in Australia, still am, and like it was just the most mind-blowing thing I'd ever seen. Generally, like it was just so insane. It was incredible.
Mum allowed me to skip my homework and watch the next one because I got them shipped over I got them shipped over from the UK because it wasn't coming out in Australia for another few months. And
really?
Mum was like, okay, you can watch part 1, then you have to do your homework. And then she sat down and watched it with me. And it ended, and she went, "And you're not doing your homework tonight, love. We're watching part 2."
Oh, that's so cool! I love that.
Yeah, it was great.
That's what I mean. It did. There was something about that time, wasn't there, where it connected with people who probably weren't even that bothered about Doctor Who, but if they ended up watching it, would be like, "Wow, this is actually quite good. Let's watch the next one." You know, yeah. We need to get back to that.
We do.
Yeah, definitely. But speaking of really good endings of episodes, do you have an episode that has the best ending?
I am going to plump for Vincent and the Doctor.
Very nice.
And this may play into the question you asked earlier about episodes that make me cry, because I think the ending to Vincent and the Doctor, and a lot of people may have chose a story that's like an epic ending, a big bombastic ending, but I've chosen Vincent and the Doctor because I think it is the most beautiful ending when they take Vincent back to the art gallery. And that song kicks in. I think it's by a group called Athlete. Forget the name of the song, weirdly, but
Chances.
What a track! Yes, and it's just perfect, isn't it? I mean, so songs in Doctor Who are a strange thing. That one just, I mean, actual songs rather than music, like Britney Spears or something, But that song at that moment absolutely fits perfectly, and then Murray's music comes in, and it just the acting that's going on of him reacting to the artwork around him, I just find that moment absolutely perfection. Everything comes together at the end of that story, and so I've gone for that. I've gone for Vincent the Doctor.
Beautiful. I agree. It's amazing.
So next question, which episode would you say has the best opening? This is a hard one. I always say that. I always say this is probably one of the hardest questions, I think.
It is a hard question. And I've got to be honest, I struggled with this because, I don't know, a lot of Doctor Who starts quite slow, doesn't it? There's not many sort of real big bombastic intros. But one of the ones that sprung to mind, which again is just more to do with how it made me feel at the time, was thinking, whoa, this is cool, and got me straight into the episode, was Tooth and Claw, when you got that epic fight. I think it's like a pre-credit sequence, isn't it? Got all that fighting going on, and then a werewolf pops up, and I thought, wow, what a hell of an intro. And that, I mean, the story itself falls a bit flat after that, but as intros go, I think Tooth and Claw is a cracker. And I still think they should have launched Series 2 with Tooth and Claw, really. But anyway,
Definitely.
so Tooth and Claw. Also, I'm going to just throw this in as a classic series guy. I love, and as Aidan's watched season 24, I love the beginning to Doubter and the Bannermen, with all the fighting and the shooting and the Shimmer on Queen. Trying to escape. I think, again, as a kid, I was like, oh, this is quite good for Doctor Who. Because Doctor Who had really gone downhill for a while, and in terms of I don't know, excitement and effects, and that to me just felt great at the time, even though it's in a quarry. It was cool. You got people falling off cliffs, and you've got they've built part of the spaceship as a real prop, so there's something there, and I thought it was pretty good for 82. So Doubter and the Bannermen goes in there as well as a cracking intro.
I really want to show Connor it because I think you'll really like it. I think
I'm
it's
really keen to see that.
Really underrated and really fun.
Yeah, that whole season, I've just heard so many interesting things about. So I'm really keen to check it out.
I'm glad you like that story. It's a strange one. I think you can see why people wouldn't rate it very highly, but I think there is a lot to love in Doubter and the Bannermen. I'll be so intrigued to hear your thoughts on that, Connor, when you get around to reviewing it together, because I've got a lot of love for that story as well. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, especially coming after Paradise Towers, which is one of my favorite of McCoy's. And I was like, these two are amazing. I don't know. I was so into it.
I've got a lot of love for season 24, guys. I love Paradise Towers as well. As I was just saying, it's bleak. And I think after Paradise Towers is bleak, right? After Paradise Towers, you need some fun holiday campness.
Yeah, which is exactly what it is. It's so
exactly
good.
what it is. Yeah.
So good.
I nearly said something that was a spoiler then. I was going to say something, but there's something that I really look forward to Connor's reaction to. I'm trying to think of a way to say it to you, but say it to you, Aidan, without actually saying it, but I can't. I can't think of any way.
We're looking forward to it.
I'm just thinking of one of the cliffhangers and how crazy it is, and it's like, what the hell?
Oh my! Oh yeah, I think I know what you're talking about. Yeah, that's
What is he going to make of that?
Story.
Yeah. Let's drink some green juice. All right.
Okay.
You'll know when you know.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
This, I think, is what we've quickly found to be the hardest question of them all, which is there an episode that you relate to? Or maybe it's a character in an episode, a scene or something, an episode that you relate to the most?
I've got to be honest, guys. I'm struggling to think. I have never really felt I've related to any character, to be honest. Maybe the pirate from the pirate planet, just for looks. But no, I've always wanted to cosplay as that blooming pirate, the eye. No, I've got to be honest. I've struggled to think of an answer for this one, because I just don't. When I'm watching Doctor Who, I think I'm more about wanting to escape from everything around me, and I just don't. Yeah, I've never sat there and thought, he reminds me of myself. If you really wanted to stretch it, you could say Adric, the annoying little brat, because once again, as a kid, I loved Adric. I still do, actually. I call him annoying little brat. I still love the character of Adric because he's so annoying. And I guess at a stretch, you could say I was a similar age to Adric at the time, or at least I felt like it's might have related to him a bit more. But as being like a member of the TARDIS team, I could sort of see myself, that'd be me. I'd be Adric if I was in the TARDIS.
Right.
So, I don't know. Let's go with Adric. Let's put on a gold star. Yeah, let's go with Adric. What a one to be related to, eh? Whoa.
That's a great answer.
Yeah.
That's great. Cool. Which episode objectively is the greatest ever? Yeah, it starts to get harder, I feel like, near the end.
Greatest ever.
The goat, the greatest of all time.
I don't know if I'm going for this just because they've just announced season 7, but I always have thought that Inferno was an absolute belter as a science fiction whopping 7-parter that I just, whenever I put it on, just absolutely love. I love how it just builds up and up and up, and you almost feel that tension of throughout every episode, just getting more and more, and then it flips into the alternative reality and stuff. And I think Inferno is brilliant, and John Pertwee, my God, he is on fire as the Doctor in that story. It just reminds me of a classic slice of science fiction, it's just got everything going on. I love Inferno. For the new series, this may sound a bit obvious, but I do think it's a great episode. Is The Waters of Mars. I know a lot of people drag this one up as if it's like the Holy Grail, and a lot of people say it's overrated. But when I last watched Waters of Mars, I really felt like it was a great episode of Doctor Who. Like, it's got all the scares in it. The moment when Tennant turns to Victorious when he's walking away from the base gives me chills every single time. I just think it's a really good episode. I don't know if it quite warrants the best ever, but I'm going to go for that as a new series one because it just is one that I can watch a lot and appreciate.
I feel like Waters of Mars is the golden standard of, is it penultimate? I always say it wrong.
Penultimate
Doctor stories. It's like the golden standard. It's so good.
Yeah, it sets up its finale
stuff. It sets it up so well. It's like and even just from like a storytelling standpoint as well. I always look at Waters of Mars as like such a good episode to come out before the final. I genuinely do think it's just such a great piece of storytelling. So great. The whole time Victorious thing, perfect.
So good.
Really
It's,
great.
it's why I was hesitant to say it's the best ever, because does, like you said, it is kind of leading into something, but I still think it's one of the best for sure.
Yeah. And with Inferno, I'm very excited to watch it when season 7 comes out, because whenever these, like I said, I watch them through the collection sets, and whenever there's a new set that comes out, I'm always looking at the episode lists of what was in that season. And I always have a rough idea of what episodes are in each season, but it's like you get the odd season where you're like, I know these names of episodes, but I'm not really into no one really talks about them that much. And you might find a gem in there, which is great. But then you get something like Inferno at the end of it, and you're like, oh boy, I'm so excited for this one to come out. And
we were just talking about that before on the last show we just did. Yeah.
It's like watching history when you watch those episodes that everyone talks about so much. It's really cool. And Spearhead as well, I'm excited for.
Yes.
Is there an episode that you've watched the most?
I think I have a lot of go-tos. There are episodes that I just do. They'll have something about them that I do reach for them quite frequently. Legopolis is one. I've watched that. I know I will pick a different answer because I know I've used that a couple of times, but I do go back to Legopolis a lot, and I think that is very much because it takes me back to being a kid and just why I loved it as a kid. But I think I'm going to have to go for Remembrance of the Daleks. Again, I know it might be a bit of a too popular go-to, but it is true. I must have watched Remembrance of the Daleks, I don't know how many times over the years. It just has everything for me, that story. I think it's a great story to begin with. And I just love it. I just never get bored of it. It's full-on action all the time. The cast are great. The music is flipping awesome. The 80s soundtrack.
Yeah.
You know, I love it. I can't get enough of Remembrance of the Daleks. I just think it's an absolute. I mean, I in a way, it probably could go in there as the greatest ever. I did think about that instead of Inferno. It's got to be up there as one of the best episodes of Doctor Who ever, I think. You could be picky and say it doesn't deserve it because the production values, the Daleks are wobbly. You could pick it to pieces. But for me, story-wise and everything else, Remembrance, man, is just brilliant. And Ace is so good in it. I always forget, really, that it's Sophie's first proper story. She gets introduced in Dragonfire, but she hasn't really she didn't even know when she was filming that she's going to be the new companion until the end of filming it. So for her to just go in and be so good in her first story, I think is incredible. And the relationship between her and the Doctor is, the chemistry between the two of them is incredible. You'd think they'd been Doctor Companion for a whole season, not that this was their first episode together. Incredible stuff. Love it.
Yeah. Great episode.
Yeah, we just did it, didn't we?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was really impressed. Because you hear about these stories sometimes, so much, and it's hard to go into them sometimes with to lower your expectations, or because I've had some episodes where it's you just hear so much about it, and it's like Genesis was a bit like that for me, as much as and Earthshock as well, because those are two stories that I just heard about so much, so it's hard to go into them and not feel a little bit underwhelmed sometimes. But with Remembrance, it was just a home run for me. It's so good, it's so fun.
The other thing, Connor, is as well, I think when people recommend or love a particular episode or story, it does come back to what you were saying in one of the earlier questions about having, if you have an emotional attachment or there's something that resonates in it with you personally, you're going to love it more. As I said, with Legopolis, I absolutely love that story, but it's because of a lot of the stuff that resonates with me and the memories behind it, not necessarily because it's a good story. I think that plays into it as well a bit.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. What is the worst episode of Doctor Who of all time?
Except Space Babies.
Yes. I've asked you about the GOAT, and now I'm asking you about the worst. What would you say?
What's the worst?
And you could say whatever you like.
I genuinely think Space Babies is up there. I got to be honest. I did think it was terrible.
Why do you hate Space Babies so much? Can I ask? What's the deep-rooted hate? What?
Unless it's still to come.
No. I mean, the thing is with Space Babies, it just made me cringe. I think it was just the disappointment of it because, we had the midnight release, and I'll try and keep this short, by the way, rather than doing a full review. But we had the midnight release, and I'd gone to bed. I hadn't stayed up, and then for some reason I was woken up, And I was like, okay, well, I'm up now, and it's 10 to 12. Let's get it on. And I was really excited, and I ended up watching it with my partner. And I was just cringing all the way through it. I was just like, this is terrible. This is so bad. Like, the babies are embarrassing. You've got a farting spaceship, a monster that's made of bogies. This
So
is puerile,
silly.
awful. I just couldn't. I don't know. Maybe one day I'll just put all the baggage aside and just watch it. And that can happen, you know. Sometimes I've hated a story, and because you've got all this stuff that you hated about it, just put that baggage to the side and just watch it as as it is. But I think also because it launched Series 1, that I think that is the main reason that that I get so annoyed about it, because I just thought Russell was talking about Doctor Who being as big as Stranger Things and all this sort of stuff, all this epic stuff, and then he launches it with this. I just thought this is not the story to launch Series 1 with. I think that's my biggest gripe with it, Connor, to be honest. I reckon if you'd have put this in the middle of the series, I honestly don't believe I would have so much disdain for it. I honestly do think that. But as a series opener, mate, it grinds my gears. I'm just like, what was he thinking? This is nowhere near Stranger Things level. Like, not even close. You know,
Yeah,
it's not even good science fiction. So, but anyway, so I did see you've lit the fuse now. No,
it's
I
a
know
real,
you guys
for
like
me,
it.
For me, it's a real, like, shut myself in my room. No one walk in. No one talk to me. Like, no one can see I'm watching this episode right now, because then I'll start hating it. Do you know what I mean?
Or just show your whole family like I did.
I would never show my family.
Rip the Band-Aid off and just show them it.
But
I think that is the thing as well. It reminds me of a time when I was embarrassed by Doctor Who. I think that's the other thing. It's not necessarily the episode itself. It's just that it's as I said, if it had been mid-series, it would have been all right. But it is that thing of, it made me feel embarrassed watching it with my partner, who, you know, he does like Doctor Who, but he really watches it because of me, if you know what I mean. He wouldn't, you know, he's a casual. He's a casual fan,
right.
and when you put a new episode on, you want it to be good. And I just found myself, feeling this is just reminds me of being in the 80s. Like, this would be like me watching Time of the Rani back in the 80s with my best mate, who, you know, what's good about Doctor Who then? Well, watch this. You know, it just took me back to being cringing and being embarrassed by Doctor Who, which is, again, why I think I'm sort of really down on it. Probably a lot more than I should be. It's probably not that bad, but I can't revisit it yet. I'm not ready to go back to it yet. One day I will. One day I will go back.
So what is the real worst episode for you?
I remember really thinking that Orphan 50... Again, I know I'm picking ones that probably seem obvious, but I do remember thinking Orphan 55 was just almost unwatchable. That woman screaming Benny for 45 minutes, it drove me mad. I can't even watch it and laugh at it. It infuriates me, that episode, because it looks pretty bad apart from the location. It makes no sense. They drag this poor old guy off with his gas, you know, breathing cylinder and keep him alive for what? There's so much in the episode, but I think it's terrible. Orphan 55. Hang on. Yeah, Orphan 55 is the one with Benny, right?
Yeah.
What's the one with the Pating? What's the one with the Pating?
Saranga Conundrum.
Oh my goodness me. That's got to be in there. Forest of the Night. I think the Capaldi episode is atrocious. I can barely get through that. You know, that girl turning up in a bush at the end. What the hell? That's got to be up there. Sleep No More. I remember thinking was really bad. Oh, that is rough. There's quite a few, but there's a couple for you to keep going with. I think there's quite a long list. For a show that we love so much, it does have a lot of bad stuff in there.
Definitely.
Definitely.
You know, 60 years, you're going to get a few bad ones, aren't you?
You sure are.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
You sure are.
Do you have an episode? What's the funniest, most laugh out loud episode for
A
you?
lol moment.
Yeah, big lol.
Big lol.
This, do you know, weirdly, this is the question I find hardest out of all of them.
Okay, yeah.
'Cause
Right.
Okay.
I don't know if I'm just a miserable old so and so. Try not to swear, like you guys don't swear. Doctor Who does not generally make me laugh, and I can't think of an episode that I think is funny. There are things during the Moffat era. I think Moffat's humour for a lot of people doesn't land, but for me, I think it more often does land than doesn't. So there's probably stuff during the Moffat era that I find enjoyable and it would make me laugh. But I can't think of any laugh out loud moment. If I was stretching it, I would pick like the Hartnell episode, The Ark, because they scream that take me to the security kitchen, which I think is ridiculous. That always gives me a little laugh. But because why would you have a security kitchen? Yeah, it's the most random thing. But no, I got to be honest, guys. There's not many episodes that I sit there and really laugh at. The only one I could really think of, I remember loving the scene in The Husbands of River Song, which is actually not an episode I particularly liked, but I do remember loving the scene where Capaldi has to pretend he's shocked by the TARDIS because River doesn't know he is. And I do remember thinking that was a lovely scene, and I seem to remember that I did sort of chuckle or maybe even laugh out loud at that. I don't know.
Well,
you
know us, you boys. We walk around town. We've always got a coffin with us, waiting to see if there's anyone that needs
not depressing at all,
scraping up from the floor or something. So.
I quite often need scraping up from the floor. Yeah, normally when I'm in the pub.
Well, we got a call. We said there was an incident on the tracks.
Yeah.
So we came over and we see the remains of geeks just everywhere. Obviously, the handbags there, just torn apart. Yep. Which has magically appeared halfway through this podcast in the background. There's. So we start to, get geeks into the coffin because that's what we do, right?
That's our job.
That's what we do. We get geeks on the handbag. Obviously, the handbag, the contents of it have spilled out everywhere. So we got to get all that stuff in there as well.
Make sure you get the Blue Peter badges up. They're worth a fortune. Get those first of all. Don't worry about me. Just get the Blue Peter badges.
Straight in my pocket. So we're putting all that in there. Obviously, the old woman's there as well, but we only have one coffin, so we've got to put the old woman in there as well.
Poor lady.
Yeah. Oh, God. You mean I'm buried
with the banana peel? The banana peel can go in there as well, the one that you slipped on.
Geeks, all I can say is we don't make the rules. We might make the podcast, but we don't make the rules.
It's heaven's rules.
So
this is sounding disgusting.
But the point is, by the time we've got all the nuts and bobs in there,
Nuts and bobs. I love it.
Nuts and bobs.
Let's go.
By the time we got all that in there, there's only enough room for one disc, one single Doctor Who disc containing one episode of Doctor Who that you can take to the people of Doctor Who Heaven to show your love for the show, just to show every night to everyone. Geeks, what would that episode of Doctor Who be?
I know what it is. I know what it is. This I had no trouble with this one.
Okay.
It's the 5 Doctors.
Hey.
That's good.
Great answer.
I freaking love the 5 Doctors more than anything.
Nice.
This to me is the holy grail of Doctor Who. Like, if I could only take one story to watch again and again and again, it would be this, because it has everything. It's so much fun. 5 Doctors it is.
Fantastic.
That's an amazing answer.
Brilliant
now
question.
Open those
has
pearly
everything
gates.
in there. Yes.
We'll let you in. There was no
I
Space
say
Babies
yes.
slander, really.
I say yes.
None of the answers were technically Space Babies, so we will allow you in. And so that's in we go.
Yay!
Welcome.
Go have fun.
I feel my wings growing.
There you go.
We bring our beers out from behind our wings and get them out for
Doctor Who Heaven.
Cheers.
Fantastic. Cheers.
Geeks, thank you so much for your time today, mate. It's been great chatting with you.
Thank you. Finally happened.
It's been a blimmin' pleasure. I don't know why I'm struggling. I keep trying not to swear. I don't know why. It's because whenever I do my podcast, I'm so aware of not swearing, and I forget that you can let rip on here, right?
It's the Aussie way. Thank you. No, thank you so much.
Geeks, where can people find you?
They can find me on YouTube as the Geeks Handbag, and they can find me on all good podcasts, wherever you get your podcasts, under the name The Big Blue Box Podcast with my good friend Gary. Yeah, that's where you can find me. I'm on all the socials under Geeks Handbag. I don't do any of the Blue Box socials, so if there's anything being posted, Blue Box, that you find offensive or want to argue about, that's not me. That's Gary. But anything under the name Geeks Handbag, that's him. I'm just the Geeks Handbag.
Awesome. Thank you very much, mate.
Thank you so much.
Enjoy Doctor Who Heaven.
Yeah, enjoy it.
All the best, guys. Thanks for saving me.